In Ties That Bind, Adesuwa finds herself torn between love and loyalty as she navigates a dangerously passionate relationship with her stepson, Dami. Set against the vibrant backdrop of Lagos, the story unfolds with a thrilling blend of desire and betrayal, as hidden emotions threaten to shatter the fragile peace of her family. Just when it seems the bond between them can be kept secret, a fateful encounter with her husband, Danjema, sets off a whirlwind of revelations that could destroy everything. As Adesuwa grapples with the consequences of her choices, viewers will be captivated by the intensity of her internal conflict and the heart-wrenching decisions that lie ahead. Join us till the end to witness a gripping tale of love, loss, and the ties that bind us all. The last thing I remember was the taste of his lips on mine, electric and intoxicating, locking us into a dangerous game of desire we couldn't escape. But then came the sound of the key in the door. My heart stopped. It was my husband. That moment changed everything, and now, sitting alone in our dimly lit living room, I could almost hear my life unraveling, thread by thread. The secrets I'd held, the lines I'd crossed, each would come undone with one fateful revelation. I am Adesuwa, a 35-year-old woman who had spent 5 quiet years as a dutiful wife in the bustling heart of Lagos. My life was meant to be peaceful, wrapped in love with my husband, Danjema. But like any story, it turned convoluted, a tale of betrayal intertwined with passion that pulsed like a heartbeat between me and my stepson, Dami. At 24, Dami was no longer the awkward boy I'd met but a striking figure, exuding a charisma that captivated everyone, especially me. It all began during those lingering, sultry evenings when the mosquitoes buzzed, and the air felt heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine. Danjema often worked late, leaving Dami and me alone to navigate the swelling tension that hung between us like a fog nobody could cut through. Initially, I believed it was simply a mother-son connection, but as days turned into weeks, I felt a tug of something deeper, something unsettling, yet exhilarating. That night was one of those clandestine evenings where the house was quiet, and desires whispered louder than the crickets outside. I was sitting on the couch, a book in my hands, though I hadn't turned a page in what felt like hours. My mind was elsewhere, lost in a storm of emotions that had been brewing inside me for weeks. Dami, my 24-year-old stepson, was in the kitchen just a few feet away. No longer the shy, awkward teenager I had met when I married his father 5 years ago, he had grown into a strikingly handsome young man, exuding confidence and charm. But lately, it changed, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. There was a tension between us now that made my heart race whenever he was near. I tried to push those thoughts aside and focus on my book, but my eyes kept drifting toward the kitchen, where Dami stood, leaning casually against the counter, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the soft glow of the overhead light. His gaze was fixed on me, a steady, intense stare that sent shivers down my spine. When our eyes met, it felt like a spark had ignited between us and my heart raced. There was a daring glint in his expression, an energy that electrified the air around us. "You've been quiet tonight," he said, breaking the silence with a voice that was deep and smooth, laced with an underlying intensity. "Is everything okay?" I nodded, forcing a smile, but it felt hollow against the raging storm of emotions brewing within. "Just tired, Dami," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. But it wasn't just fatigue weighing me down, it was the chaos of my thoughts twisting into a dangerous narrative. Instead of retreating, he placed his glass down on the counter and moved toward the couch with deliberate slowness. My heart pounded as he settled next to me, so close that I could feel the heat radiating from him. The air hummed with an electric tension, threatening to snap. As I tried to steady my breathing, he leaned in, his lips brushing against my ear. "I've been thinking about you," he murmured, his voice low and husky. "About us." My breath hitched, and a wave of heat rushed through me. I wanted to protest, to say that this was wrong, that we were crossing a line that could never be uncrossed, but I didn't. I felt his hand gently grip my wrist, his eyes locking onto mine with a fierce, pleading intensity. "Don't say no," he urged softly. "Not yet." Against my better judgment, I leaned into him, feeling every rational thought slip away as his lips captured mine. The kiss was a heady rush, igniting dormant desires and sending pleasure coursing through my body. I had nearly forgotten the craving for connection, companionship, and warmth. The kiss was unexpected, fierce, full of unrestrained need that swallowed us whole. I melted into him, my hands gripping his shirt as if anchoring myself in a stormy sea. Logic screamed at me to pull away, but all I could feel was the weightlessness of surrender. But just as quickly as it began, he pulled back, searching my face for a reaction. The heat in his eyes danced with longing and uncertainty. I opened my mouth to voice my concerns, but no words came. I felt alive in a way I hadn't felt in years, and yet a voice in the back of my mind warned me that this was a dangerous line to tread. As he pulled back, breathless, the reality of our situation crashed in. Words choked in my throat. What were we doing? What had I done? "We shouldn't," I stammered, the weight of our actions becoming suffocating. His eyes bore into me, a mixture of longing and desperation. "This is our secret. No one needs to know," he urged, his words slithering into my mind. I wanted to scream, to run, yet I remained captivated, caught in a web spun from lust and urgency. The days that followed morphed into a blur of clandestine rendezvous, each touch igniting something irrevocable, each kiss unraveling who I had believed myself to be. We stole moments when Danjema was away, our secret life punctuated by the thrill of being caught. I became addicted to this hidden world, the rush overpowering, the guilt clawing at my conscience. Then one evening, the air thick with palpable tension, the truth ripped through our fantasy like a violent storm. My husband, Danjema, returned unexpectedly, his voice booming through the hallways like thunder. I had been with Dami, the dim lights flickering ominously around us, the atmosphere heavy with unsaid words. "Adesuwa." Danjema's voice sliced through my thoughts, and panic gripped me. There was no time to hide or shield the truth. Each beat of my heart echoed like a countdown to disaster. Dami's eyes widened as we shared a knowing glance, a shared fear that surged between us, a treacherous bond that now threatened to be laid bare. Before I could collect myself, Danjema stormed into the living room. Dami made a move to escape, but it was too late. The tension shattered as Danjema's eyes fell on us, locking onto the stray hairs from my messy bun that adorned Dami's shirt. The horror and realization morphed into a cocktail of emotions, rage, betrayal, and disbelief. "What the hell is going on here?" Danjema roared, the room filled with a suffocating silence that followed his words, a heavy blanket that threatened to smother. I watched Dami's composure falter as he reached for something to say, an explanation for the unspeakable bond we'd forged. But words failed him, and I felt the weight of our choices crashing down like a ton of bricks. "Answer me," Danjema shouted, his rage crackling in the air. In that moment, I knew our lives would never be the same. We crossed a threshold into uncharted territory, one where every choice had consequences, and every secret had a price. I could see Dami's resolve crumbling, and the deep sorrow in his eyes mirrored my own. "Can't you see it's not what it looks like?" I begged, desperation creeping into my voice. My heart was racing, knowing the weight of the truth and how it could tear us apart. "Then what is it, Adesuwa? What have you two plotted behind my back?" he demanded, his voice shaky with emotion. It was a tangled web, and my heart throbbed painfully with the realization that I had betrayed not just my husband, but the sanctity of the family we had built together. I wrestled with the choice of how to respond. Should I protect Dami or shield myself from the wrath that awaited us? Looking between the two men I cared for most, I felt like a puppet caught in a deadly performance. I made a split-second decision, the words stumbling out before I could rein them in. I love him, Danjema. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I do. The air turned icy, and the silence that followed hung heavily between us. Danjema stared at me, shock etched across his features, a mixture of betrayal laced with disbelief. For a fleeting moment, I thought perhaps he would understand, that he would forgive. But then came the explosion of emotions that would alter the course of our lives forever. Danjema's face contorted into a mask of anger, raw and primal. "Get out," he screamed, the words meant to wound. "Both of you." I looked at Dami, a silent plea in my eyes, but before I could gather myself, Danjema lunged forward, his emotions driving him. "You think you can just take my family? You think I'll stand by while you destroy everything we built?" In the chaos, Dami's voice trembled, tinged with sorrow and regret, as he began to retreat. "Danjema, please, let's talk about this," but the words fell on deaf ears. The storm had broken, and nothing could repair the damage. That evening, everything spiraled into darkness. Our lives were drowned in miscommunication and heartbreak. Danjema locked me out, his anger spilling forth like molten lava. Dami slipped out the back door, the person I never intended to hurt now lost to the shadows of our shattered morality. Days turned into weeks, and the aftermath of that night lingered like a ghost. I tried to salvage the pieces of my broken world. Danjema refused to speak to me, and Dami had vanished without a trace. My heart ached for the love that had become my undoing, and the emptiness consumed me. Then one evening, a knock at the door shattered my solitude. Heart racing, I opened the door to find Dami standing there, his eyes haunted, suitcase in tow. "I had to come back," he said softly, and the weight of unspoken words lingered between us, our unfinished story buried deep in our hearts. But it came at a cost. Danjema had accidentally discovered something he hadn't meant to uncover, a hidden letter that exposed our truth. His eyes bore into me like a knife because I had withheld this secret for too long. "You think I didn't notice? You think you can just walk back into my life?" he roared with fury. Dami stood rooted to the spot, caught between loyalties, and my heart felt like it was being torn in two. The unresolved conflict birthed a new tension between the three of us, and I could sense the brewing storm threatening to erupt. With reality closing in around us, I made a final plea. "Danjema, we can find a way to heal," but the tension was too thick, the scars engraved too deep. That night marked not just the fracture of relationships but also the genesis of painful revelations that required confronting our mistakes. I was left standing in the ruins of my choices, my heart aching for the very people I had hurt with my reckless abandon for desire. As the undercurrent swirled, depth of love and betrayal collided, unraveling beneath the weight of consequences. I was left clinging to the remnants of the life I had shattered, understanding that sometimes the ties that bind us can be the very strings that lead us to our undoing. In the end, love isn't enough to mend a broken bond, it only serves to highlight the raw edges that remain jagged and exposed, echoing the dangerous beauty of choices made in the dark. The end. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and let us know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories like this one. Your support means the world, and we are so grateful to have you on this journey with us. See you next time.